Hey guys, how you doing? This video is not meant for kids. Let's roll. So, you know who it is. How y'all doing today? And today we're going to talk a little Star Trek. No, I'm not going to talk about the Picard Discovery. I don't want to think about that. Better people like Anna Nerdrotics, Doomcock, and other people have already covered that subject. I'm not even going to try. Because I'll just stand here for an hour bitching, moaning, and wailing. But I'm going to talk about something a little more lighthearted. Because you see, for the last few weekends, I've been rewatching the old Star Trek movies, you know, the original TMP era. Anyways, watching, Star Trek 2, I've worked my way up to 5 that we kind of had to skip 4 because it wasn't on Amazon Prime and I just didn't feel like paying for it at the time. But anyways, wife and I rewatched Star Trek 5. Now, Star Trek 5 is definitely on my lower end of not favorite Star Trek movies. Though it's a lot better than I remember watching it as an adult because now I get a lot more of the messages that we're trying to say. Not to say that Star Trek 5 didn't have systemic problems, like a pretty mishmash story and some other stuff, but the interpersonal relationships and the comedy were definitely above board. Especially some of the best lines in Star Trek coming out of Star Trek 5, like, "Excuse me, what does God need with a starship?" And the way William Shatner put that line out, wow. William Shatner, I still tip my hat to that one, because that was a great line. Or Leonard Nimoy, God rest him, "Jim, not in front of the Klingons." Those are some of the best lines in Star Trek, hands down. So, Star Trek 5 was definitely a mixed-matched movie. The story wasn't all that good, but the interpersonal relationships, dealing with pain, dealing with, family, and, coming off of, Spock coming back and, having to deal with that revelation, because a lot of people say, one of the major first franchises was Star Trek 2 through 4. Well, you kind of have to throw 5 in there, because of the fact that it takes place less than a month after the events of Star Trek 4. I mean, it's literally, Kirk took the new Enterprise out for a, shakedown cruise. Parts of the Enterprise were definitely not working, though Scotty said, and I'll get to that in a moment, because that's addressed to Mr. LoreReloaded. But, the ship was kind of in a flying wreck. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we come back from that little training cruise, and even when Kirk gets back on the Enterprise and they're being recalled for the mission, it's like, "Scotty, you said you'd have this fixed in 2 weeks. I gave you 3. Well, Captain, you gave me too much time. I sat on my hands. How many times must I tell you? Use the right tool for the right job." God bless James Doohan. He was such a great Scotty. But generally, that's basically 6 weeks from the end of we see the Enterprise A warping out of space dock to the start of the movie. So it's been, close to 2 months since, we saw the Enterprise A for the first time in Star Trek 4. So this is kind of actually 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's a 4-movie thing because it's still attached to that time frame. It's not till Star Trek 6 that we actually get like a 7-year jump. They're still in the 2280s in Star Trek 5. But anyways, now this part was kind of alluded to, but this ending sequence is definitely pointed at Mr. LoreReloaded. Now generally, I love his stuff, but he had this kind of lore-looking at thing of the Enterprise A and how he doesn't think that she was a brand new ship. That, Kirk saved the day, we're going to give her a new Enterprise, but it's an old Constitution, and, it's a 40-year-old ship, and it's practically falling apart, and that's why Scotty has to spend so much time fixing the ship. Well, that lore, it's actually debunked by Scotty himself very on in Star Trek 5. If you actually, when Enterprise is still in space dock, and you see pretty much a recycled shot of Star Trek 4, with, zooming in on the Enterprise past the Excelsior, you hear a report by Scotty, where he's doing a personal log talking about the faults of the Enterprise. And he calls the Enterprise A a brand new ship. Like, she's straight out of the builder's hands. So, to debunk some of your theories, yeah, sorry, pal. Enterprise A was a brand new ship in 2286. Brand spanking new, paint just dried, and she had a bunch of teething problems. As in, the ship, except for the warp drive, barely even worked, which definitely calls the Starfleet Corps of Engineers building practices into question to build a brand new Constitution like that, and she's practically falling apart at the hinges. Oh, and then Starfleet only working her for about 7 years and then retiring her. That also calls into question, why in the hell would you have a 7-year life cycle for a brand new Constitution ship? I mean, I know they were starting to move away from the Constitution class and towards the Excelsior running screaming by about the 2300s, but still, Enterprise A was only 7 years old. Why would you decommission her? You got at least a good another decade to get out of her before she's done. I mean, hell, you'd think a 20-year life cycle. So instead of, I mean, she should have been retired in 2216, not 2293. But anyways, what do I know, right? But that was just to kind of shed some light on the subject that LoreReloaded. I know that was an old video that you did about a year and a half ago, but we have to debunk that entire idea that the Enterprise A was an old ship slapped with a new coat of paint. Nope, sorry, pal. She was a brand new Constitution straight out of the builder's hands. Which, again, calls into the practices of the Starfleet Corps of Engineers to let a ship that defunct and falling apart, that's supposed to be brand freaking new out the gate. Yeah, that's a little bit more than a few teething problems. That's half that ship functions don't function. But anyways, just something fun to think about and something a little tagged at LoreReloaded. I'm sorry I had to throw some shade on him, but, you know, if he doesn't do his homework, someone's got to point it out to him. But anyways, I'm Jeff. That's a little fun jaunt down memory lane in Star Trek V, and I'll catch you next time.